Now, the big news that ties into this, and I'm getting into all the other news, and it's massive, is that yesterday, the full clip's on Infowars.com, John McCain went into the Senate to try to bypass rules if no one objected. That's how they got the Federal Reserve Act in 1913 and the income tax in 1913, other stuff. Remember, 3 senators on December 23rd, everybody was gone for Christmas. They came and said no one objected, so then they passed it because they were the chairman of the committees. Same deal. McCain sneaks into the Senate, and of course, Paul's got to have people constantly watching C-SPAN, constantly having his aides watching and say, sir, sir, sir. That's why all the time you get congressmen or senators on, they've got to run, especially if they're high-ranking, because they've got to go vote or object to what's being rammed through. So McCain runs in with a treaty that openly sends in billions of weapons and U.S. troops and declares that NATO will attack Russia if it continues to be in Ukraine, which has been Russian for 500 years, and reportedly is pretty much where Russia started. I mean, it's undoubtedly Russian, okay? Ukraine's gone back and forth. The other part's more Germanic, and they've always been killing each other, and it's 2 different tribes. The Germans split it in 2. The Russians split it in 2. It's been going on for hundreds of years. He knows you're ignorant, or he thinks you're ignorant. He knows his constituents are. And so he runs in, and you can tell in the body language, if you're watching the video at Infowars.com/show, we're about to play it. We're going to play the whole clip right now. He gets angry and says, oh, if you object, it means you're working for the Russians. If you object, it really, really shows who you are. And then Senator Paul just simply says, yes, I object to you just passing this through without having a full hearing or full committee so it could then go to a full vote. We're going to have some due process here, McCain. And McCain goes, that's it. Respond, respond. The fact that you won't defend it because Rand Paul's walking out shows that you are an agent of Putin and work for him. He actually says you work for Putin at the end. It's incredible. When if you watch C-SPAN, you know full well, constantly for hours, especially when a lot of lawmaking's going on, is this person will pop up if no one objects. If no one objects, it slips through. Or I object. And we'll have little debates about it sometimes. But most of the time, if you're busy, like Rand Paul is a professional doctor, isn't screwing around. I mean, he is very effective. Not at his rhetoric so much, but what he gets done. He's one of the best senators we've seen in decades, and a patriot. Amazing. I wish he was part of the administration. But the point is, and they're starting to get a little bit closer to each other, so that's good. These are allies made for each other. They both lead the liberty movement. We need them. And so that's starting to happen. Skip the break. Skip this break for a new listener. I skip a lot of breaks. I can't help it. And those are network break, those, not the local station breaks. They get their sponsorship. But expanding on this, this is a whole new level of deception. Everything McCain says is a lie. Oh, this is just a thing to be nice to Ukraine and help it, and it got attacked, and it's terrible, and blah, blah, blah. George Soros funded billions. The State Department funded $5 billion. We have powers in all of them at the State Department bragging 3 years ago that they overthrew Ukraine and the elected government, burned down large parts of cities, started a civil war, started pressing towards the Russian border, and the Russians did send in humanitarian and then military for a small area to secure their pipeline that goes out to the Black Sea and out to some other facilities. So, and then they say, I'm a Russian agent because I know the facts and researched it. No. Senator Rand Paul understands this is an act of war on Russia's doorstep when George Soros and John McCain and Hillary Clinton and John Kerry and the normal, usual suspects that funded al-Qaeda, funded ISIS, went and met with the groups, destabilized the Middle East, Africa, blew up Libya, blew up Egypt, a huge civil war, hundreds of thousands dead in Syria. They're now trying to start a war with Russia. McCain has always said he wants a war with Russia. It's a Zbigniew Brzezinski plan. It's totally insane. It's totally out of control. Russia is not expansionist. It's China that is. That's openly threatening to nuke the United States 3 times so far this week in official government announcements. They're threatening to nuke our aircraft carriers. They're threatening to blow up South Korea. Kim Jong-un is firing missiles that crash right off the coast of Japan, threatening to nuke Tokyo with, 20 million people? And then Senator Paul runs in to block it so that he just can't bring it to a full vote without debate and committee hearings with his known warmongering treaty that starts war with Russia. It's basically a declaration of war with Russia. That's what Republican analysts, Democratic analysts have all said. It's the closest to World War III we've ever been if this happens. This isn't like the Russians moving missiles into Cuba because we move missiles, nukes, medium-range nukes into Turkey. This is right up on the border, folks. And Russia has said it's a red line. And so here comes Senator Paul, and this monster, John McCain, has the nerve, the anti-gun, open borders piece of trash, has the nerve to then call him an agent of Putin at the end. He goes from saying, don't be manipulated, don't work for Putin, don't help Putin. And then he finally says, oh, that's it. You didn't debate me. You scurried off. Knowing that when they play that on the news, the general public doesn't watch C-SPAN and doesn't know how, especially in the Senate, those guys are playing games all the time. It's just like a football game or a chess game. If somebody isn't looking, you can carry the ball across if you're a senior member of the Senate like John McCain is. And most of the senators, again, are lazy and won't actually be up there 18 hours a day. Rand Paul is routinely up there when stuff's going on 18 hours a day, like a doctor, professionally in there with his patient, the country, trying to save it. Literally. In there just battling, battling, battling. He sees that patient, blocks McCain, leaves. McCain acts like he's a coward and is a Russian agent. This is such an escalation. I cannot describe in words how dangerous this is and how unhinged McCain is and how pissed he is that he's not getting his war with Russia. But he's been going to Ukraine trying to start a war. Remember just 2 weeks ago, he got chumped when famous Ukrainian pranksters called him and pretended to be the prime minister of Ukraine. And there's McCain on tape saying, yeah, we want to start a war. We want to attack the Russians for you right now. I'm trying to get troops in there right now. I'm trying to get President Trump, to go along with this, but who knows what he'll do. It's like a 10-minute conversation. You can go listen to the whole thing. It's John McCain. He admits it's him. He's crazy, completely out of his mind. He just a month ago came scurrying back from Syria because Trump is blowing up the ISIS Al-Qaeda forces. He ran to meet with them and promised them to hold on. We're going to try to block this. I mean, the guy is like a super villain. He is a super villain. And I think he's so crazy, he actually believes he's helping this country. He's nuts. He's nuts. Him and Lindsey Graham are reportedly blackmailed too. I mean, they're just super dangerous. And let me tell you, if they get in control of this country, people like Trump and myself and others are in deep trouble. Let me tell you, McCain isn't playing games. In fact, if I got to point fingers at somebody that I think's behind the 50-plus dead Russians and these black ops squads around the world and rogue groups, John McCain's you point the finger at because he said he wants war with Russia. He wants covert action, and he's involved in all sorts of deep state stuff. And President Trump knows John McCain is the main enemy of this country right now. President Trump knows it's not Soros, it's not Hillary anymore, it's John McCain. John McCain. Next is Paul Ryan. And notice it's his own stinking, traitorous, disgusting party that has this big screw job, of the so-called Obamacare fix that they know Trump's stuck between a rock and a hard place because if they don't do this, it'll implode the whole economy because Obamacare is even worse and designed to do that. But if he doesn't, then he'll be blamed for not repealing it and he may not have the votes. So is Trump right or is he wrong? I think he rallies the troops and gets with Senator Paul and we kill the whole thing lock, stock, and barrel. But right now, let's go to this unprecedented John McCain yesterday in the Senate, yesterday evening. Here it is.
President, if there is objection, and I note the senator from Kentucky on the floor, I will say before I read this, if there is objection, you are achieving the objectives of Vladimir Putin. You're achieving the objectives of trying to dismember this small country that has already been the subject of attempted coup.
You overthrew it.
I have no idea.
They started it.
Why anyone would object to this, except that I will say, if they object, they are now carrying out the desires and ambitions of Vladimir Putin, and I do not say that lightly. So, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that...
Is there President? Is Senator from Kentucky?
I object.
Objection is heard.
Mr. President, I note this, the senator from Kentucky leaving the floor.
The place is empty. He sneaks in to do this. The senator runs in, defeats it, leaves, and again, he calls him a coward. And remember, they're having a meeting to add Montenegro into NATO. And basically what this new treaty will do that he's trying to pass through would have 80% of Ukraine that the Russians aren't in just handed into NATO so NATO could then come in and have a war with Russia. And McCain says he wants to go kick Russia out of eastern Ukraine. I mean, it's just totally insane because that's been part of Russia for 500 years, off and on. So let's go back to the amazing clip.
Object. Objection is heard.
Mr. President, I note the senator from Kentucky leaving the floor without justification or any rationale for the action that he has just taken. That is really remarkable.
Good pause. Back it up 10 seconds. Again, stunt after stunt after stunt after stunt. That's totally normal. He's been in the Senate for 20 plus years or longer. McCain knows how this works. He sees that every day. Oh my gosh, he just ran out of here. He won't even defend it. Unbelievable. Trying again to manipulate the audience. Let's go back to the clip.
Leaving the floor without justification or any rationale for the action that he has just taken. That is really remarkable. That a senator blocking a treaty that is supported by the overwhelming number, perhaps 98 at least, of his colleagues, would come to the floor and object and walk away. And walk away. The only conclusion you can draw when he walks away is he has no argument to be made. He has no justification for his objection to having a small nation be part of NATO that is under assault from the Russians. So I repeat again, the senator from Kentucky is now working for Vladimir Putin.
That's not true. Not having war with Russia after you and Soros and Obama overturned an elected government, grabbed all the oil fields and gas fields, hogged it all, let Senator Biden, Vice President Biden's son, take over the biggest gas company and keep it for himself. I mean, this is just insane. But it is McCain. The senator from Kentucky is now working for Putin. You hear that? And in a 2-minute clip, he goes from saying you're now going along with the wishes and goals of Putin to you're working for him. See? And now the president's working for him. I'm working for him. We're all working for Putin because we don't want to work with the Nazi collaborator who tried to crash the pound, who's tried to crash our dollar, who's trying to cause wars, who funded the Arab Spring to put radical jihadis in 30-plus countries now. And because we don't want to go into Crimea and start a war with Russia, we're all, see, we're not Americans. We don't have birthrights. We don't care about the country. We don't want to make it great. We're all Russians. No, you're an agent of Al-Qaeda and Saudi Arabia and the Communist Chinese, and you want to get us pinned down in a protracted crisis in the East. You are a traitor, John McCain. You are a communist Chinese agent who covered for Hillary and all the stuff she did. You're part of the Keating Five. You're part of a crime network that is bringing this country down. You're a communist Chinese globalist agent and need to be arrested for high treason by President Trump.